Welcome to Silver Grain Connection, the entire world of analog photography in a podcast.
Hello, everybody. This is again Silver Grain Connection, our podcast, and today again with Erik Schlicksbier from Studio Kreativcarbone and myself, Marva Elmondstein from Silver Grain Classics. Our colleague Karis is today on tour and in France. Best regards from here. And Jürgen is still in the United States on vacation. So what you get here is just the last two who couldn't afford a trip. So today we have a very nice guest, and that's the good thing about it. We have the nice guests here. Markus Hofstetter, who talks himself about, he would call himself a photographer and wet plate photographer. But more important, he says, for him, the portrait is the important thing. So, Markus, welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, thanks for the warm welcome. Yeah, I think I'm more kind of a portrait photographer. You had, before we were talking about the term portrait photographer, what did you say?
Portrographer, but I don't know if that works in English.
sounds not too bad. Yeah, so my main subjects are people, and my most favorite process is the wet plate collodion process, and both together is something I really like to do.
And you are certainly Austria's best known wet plate photographer, I would say. But there will surely be some listeners here who are not yet so familiar with the collodion wet plate process. Could you briefly summarize for them what the wet plate actually is and what makes up its special charm?
So I'll try to keep it short, but I'm lying already, I think. I think this process has many aspects. It's like hundreds. It was brought to life 170 years ago, and there's a liquid poured on a metal or glass plate, and then it gets light sensitive in silver nitrate. There it has to stay for about 3 minutes. Then you have about 4 minutes to a little bit longer, depends on the humidity on the air and some stuff. Time to take your portrait, and then you develop it on site. And when you put it in the fixer, there's the magic moment happening, where the portrait comes to life and where people are really wowed by the process, because it's like really magic. It just disappears and appears again. But I think the main difference, what makes this kind of portrait photography different, is that it takes a lot of time. So when I do a portrait session, sometimes it's between 1 and 4 hours, depending how much time the people want to spend in my studio, because we sit down, have like a coffee or tea, and we talk a little bit to get more comfortable, and then I prepare the camera, the chemicals, sometimes depending what I need for the portrait, and we are aware that we are working on this one portrait. So I think it's pretty different. Even if you shoot normal film, I really mostly try to do one portrait. And if my sitters are aware that we are only doing one portrait, it makes a big difference, because we are working together on this one portrait to create something very special and how can I say, to make memories from this moment. I think is the best description. And I think this is something that makes this process and this kind of taking portraits very different to other kind of portrait photography.
I think it's really 3 aspects that's very noticeable with wet plates. It's the concentration of the sitters in almost every wet plate pictures, because they have to sit quite long normally for the exposure, for the time you go back in the dark room to prepare the plate and to come back to the sitter. But also it's a very small spectrum of light. the wet plate is sensible for. It's even worse than autochromatic film. So people look very different in that. The skin tones are different, the lips, the eyes. Blue gets very, very light. Red
dark.
gets very, very dark. It makes a difference too. And the imperfections, I would say, of the plates. I never saw, I think, a plate which is 100% clean. There are always some little spots here and there which make it a little unperfect, but in a great way.
Yeah, it makes it very unique because you have all these kind of artifacts. Even if you said it, you have a very clean plate. So maybe if you look on my Instagram, there's a plate of David Griesler and his dad. And I was a little bit disappointed when I saw the plate because it was like perfect. I couldn't see any dirt on it, but when you look closer and if you concentrate a little bit, you see there is still some kind of artifacts on there. And I think what makes a difference for me when I work with this process is that I make everything by myself. So I'm very independent, so to say. To be honest, if I wouldn't use a strobe and a darkroom light, I could just work this process without any power, even with the development. Earlier days, they used some kind of candle, and candles have like a little bit more red light, so they wouldn't affect, I think, the development, even if they put it in a red glass or something like that. I think this is a process where I can put in a lot of myself, and this is also a process where people will remember the time in my studio for a very long time.
The wet plate has experienced a real revival, although there are more and more photographers in Europe as well who are working with wet plates. It's not to the extreme extent that's in America, where there are dozens of studios that offer this speciality. What do you think is the reason for this regional disparity?
So there are two, I think. First of all, I have to get a question back to you. How many studios are really in Germany? They have a good location and that do a lot of advertisement for wet plates. I don't. If I try to remember some in Germany, maybe I know 2 or 3.
I would say 3 as well. Thilo Nass in Hanover.
Mm-hmm.
It's has quite the reach here. Christian Klant.
Exactly.
He was in Berlin. Now he is in Bavaria.
Mm-hmm.
And Maximilian Zeitler, I think, is really trying to do it in Berlin now. He just started with the studio, I think.
Yeah, but I think there are more people that are not that present on social media. I talked with a friend about it, but I think one of the aspects is if you want to push it, you have to do a lot of advertisement. And another thing that is different is if you go to somebody on the street and ask him what a tintype is or what a ferrotypie is, like the German word for tintype, most people will not know what it is. And in America, a lot of people know what tintypes are. You know, they have the reenactments where people acting, doing Civil War stuff, and people are going there with their wet plate cameras. This is I think a lot of people are shooting wet plates there. And then, for example, a friend of mine, Marion Hansel, he has a studio in Las Vegas. I think people walk into his studio, and he must have his studio on a pretty nice place. And I talked with him, and I was really surprised because he took a lot of dog portraits, what is very unusual for me in the wet plate process. But so you can just maybe understand what is different in America and here is he puts his business card in is this like a dog hairdresser or maybe like something like that. I don't recall. And he puts his business card in there, and people come with their dogs over and get a tintype taken. Can you imagine to get like your business card in in a local hairdresser or something. Just let's say a hairdresser or something, and people would come over for a tintype.
Maybe it's because the Americans have a better understanding for service. Especially, if I just think here in Germany, you might be asked, oh, well, I don't want a wedding photographer because my cousin bought a DSLR just last weekend and he can make it also just to save money. Processes like that take a lot of knowledge, take a lot of passion, take a lot of time, and nobody wants to reimburse you for that. And I think Germany is, unfortunately, one of those countries where, real profession or professionalism is not that appreciated. That's my feeling in many places.
You can be, sorry, go on.
And I think it's a different cultural connection in America with photography than in Europe. When you think about America, it was founded in 1776, and about 50 years later, photography came. And in Europe, most of Europe's history was done with way before photography even was imagined. So only the last 150 years of European culture and history have something to do with photography, and almost the entire history and culture of the United States are even captured on film and photography.
Yeah, that's right. Photography is, especially I think in the United States, Kodak is a very good example. And Ansel Adams is a good example. And that's a very I think it's a very American story, or the success of popular photography. But I think that brings us back to Markus. Is that your full-time job you're doing, or
No,
especially?
I was close about thinking to doing it in 2019 because I had a lot of customers, a lot of workshop, a lot of demonstrations, and it was really a very, very successful year. 2018 as well, but 2019 was like exploding. And then 2020, everybody knows what's happening there. And since then, I'm getting older as well. I want to focus more on stuff I really like to do. So I'm a little bit slower maybe on typical portraits, but still coming back to the kind of interest is like people still are interested to get a portrait taken, and sometimes even take a vacation in Vienna to get a portrait taken in my studio. So that's something I'm always like very appreciate about people like that, because then we are back to the thing I said before, and that we really take a lot of time or I take a lot of time to work with them. But back to your question again, I have a second job, and 2020 I was very happy that I had this second job, because it would be really, really bad just to rely on photography if nobody was allowed to go outside. I even gave some online classes in 2020 and 2021.
We did also a workshop here in Bad Nauheim,
Yeah,
here in Silvergrain
we
Studio
did.
Lab together with you. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I even did in the hardest lockdown. I did a workshop for professional photographers, because teachers always were allowed to teach. There was never a lockdown for teachers, but still it was much slower.
You're wearing anyway a gas mask, so things are not. You were on the safe side.
Yeah, it was funny to me, because all the COVID stuff, it was, for me, I had to work, I had to use gloves, I had to use masks and goggles, and the cross-contamination was something I had always in my mind. So COVID was an easy thing to think, it was not that hard that I forgot my mask and I touched something and I have to clean my hands or something. It was just in my mind, because I have it all the time with the wet plate collodion process. That's the reason I did some a series back then. That compares a little bit the collodion process with the virus, because there were so many similarities how to handle both.
So when you are doing your workshops and you notice, people are coming to you. On one side, I'm pretty sure the customers who want to get a portrait are those people who are amazed about the photos they see and about the expression, and they hope to have such a similar expression on their photo. So what are the expectations? What type of people are coming to you, and why do you think they want to learn the process or want to be portrait?
That's actually a great question. So I had an book author from Germany here, because she wanted to have a portrait for her book, and she wanted to have something unique. But I have also an artist that builds his own instruments, and he always gets, he's from New York. I think he came from New York to Vienna. I hope I recall it right. And back in New York, he already got tintypes of him and his instruments, and now we make a full series. So if you look at my Instagram, you see tintypes of Masimba. And Masimba, for example, expects to have a lot of artifacts on the plates. This is really important for him, and we also work on the pose, because on one tintype he's a priest, and the next tintype is a warrior. So I'll figure out what pose or what angle makes the most sense. Some people don't have any idea what they want. They get it like as a present, and they just want to have a portrait taken. I'll try to figure out. When I talk with them, I told you before that we take like half an hour before the shooting and sit together, and so I can figure out what kind of person is sitting in front of me, and what kind of portrait would make sense, what kind of light would make sense. It's really often I can do whatever I want, because they saw already my portraits and they like what I do. And sometimes they have some ideas, and we discuss about it. So I think it's pretty different from person to person. For example, with my workshops, I had some persons where you don't think that they would come to a wet plate workshop, like an beekeeper, for example, or Schönheitschirurg, what's the word in English, and beauty
Plastic
doctor.
surgeon.
Plastic surgeon, thank you, because he wanted to do something real, so to say. Painter, I had a painter. People who like antiques, people who really want to learn the process. So we have now 2 or 3 people in Austria that had my workshop and opened their own studio. One in UK. So it's really, I get often the question, what do I need to know before I do a workshop? And my easiest answer is like nothing. This would be the best. So a large format camera is not that difficult to work with, and the rest is, I think it's better if you haven't done anything like that before, so I can give you a fresh start.
So in fact, your clients or your clientele is a cross section of the society. So everyone, every level is there.
Mm-hmm. If you look, I had even some wedding plates where it really they love the process a lot. And the funny thing is that we did 2 different plates, a very big one, a 30 by 40 centimeter on a farm, and then the second one they wanted to have like this dead serious old kind of picture where they look very serious on the picture, and it should have. It was really funny because everybody was laughing around me when I took the image because they looked so funny. But when the plate developed, it really looked like, if you have the plate in your hand and you don't know it, it could be from 1870 for sure.
So the process is on one side the photography part, which contains also the way how a photographer takes the portrait and poses the person with the right light and does the right f-stop and all that stuff. And the second part is, after the exposure, I would call it dark room. I mean, it's only partly dark room, but in fact, it's you have the process where the development happens. And obviously that's also something that fascinates the people. That specific moment when that plate that shows nothing shows suddenly something, a negative and then a positive. So what do you think is the more important part? Is the image itself, or is the way that it suddenly appears? What do you think?
It's both. If you sit, first of all, if you sit in front of a really old camera, people mostly ask if it's still working. But as you guys know, and most analog photographers know, a camera is just an empty space with a lens in front and something that captures the image on the back of the camera. And maybe when they see an old lens or something like that. But also, if they want to, they can come to the development process where you see already a little bit. And there's also something I work with, if I have some ladies and I know they don't want to have these kind of harsh portraits, I overdevelop a little bit or overexpose a little bit. But honestly, the most, how can I say, the most memorable moment or the most exciting moment is when the fixer hits the plate and it goes from this looks like negative, but it's always a negative. It's just it looks like a positive, so to say. But when it's really changed to, if you see the plates or the portrait is coming to life, I've seen so many great reactions. I have seen a girl crying because she was so happy, or like people really screaming out loud, and it's even for me, every time I see the portrait come to life, it's very exciting and a very beautiful moment.
AI is all the rage right now. Stock photography is coming under the most pressure, but normal portrait jobs are also under attack. Recently, I was shown an ad on Instagram for job application photos, where you just have to upload 3 snapshots of yourself, and then you get a number of poses back. Has the great hour now come for analog photography, especially for wet plate, where there are haptic originals and even unique specimens?
I think what makes the biggest difference is, let's compare it with something different. You sit in front of your television, you see a wonderful view of Mount Everest, for example, and it looks gorgeous. You sit there, you enjoy it, and you think, wow, very, very cool. And I'm pretty sure the next day you have forgotten about that you saw it on TV. But you hike to a mountain, like you hike maybe 2 hours or something, and have maybe not as beautiful as the Mount Everest, but maybe you have a beautiful view about some clouds, or you see like a lake somewhere on the horizon. And I think you will remember that for much longer than the thing you saw on the television. And I think with photography, it's very, very similar.
You mean the experience the person gets when being photographed? Or what do you mean?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So the experience to get, I think you can even have that with digital, and some photographers will make a good experience. It can be a glass of wine, it can be a makeup artist or something like that. But if we talked before about it, if you concentrate for this one portrait and you see what the photographer has to prepare and what he did to make all the things happen, this will change, from my point of view, your mind. And maybe I can see that some businesses will get these AI portraits because it's cheaper and it's faster. They don't have to get their employees into the company. But I'm not sure if they will get the effect, or they will get the result with that what they are looking for. You know what I mean? I think a real portrait always is like, when I do business portraits as well, and I work normally with a person for like half an hour to get out 1 or 2 really good portraits, so you can see the personality of the person. And I'm not sure if an AI can do that.
Well, it depends on on the purpose of the pictures, if it's really important or not, of course. But in a way, you would say that the process of being photographed is coming a little bit more important than the result in the end, because the result can be nice from AI, can be nice from a real photography, but the process of being photographed is the memorable experience.
Yeah. First of all, the AI picture isn't a memory, right? So a photograph happened at some point. At some point, some light hit a sensor, a film, a plate. Something happened. It was like there was a moment in time that was captured on this plate, on this sensor, whatever it is. The thing AI does, it's just creating something that looks similar to your portrait, and we all know how good they can look like, but it never happened. It's maybe an image that was that AI saw many years ago, and it's transforming it to the image that looks like you, but it never happened. But let's look at new technology like TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that. The most or a lot of videos that got viral is about craftsmanship. If somebody is repairing, I don't know, an old scissors or an old camera, for example, or an old game console or something, this kind of craftsmanship is always or often going viral. So that, from my point of view, that shows what people are interested in, and that people often appreciate when something is done by hand or if something is done by other people.
So you think that there's a big longing for the real thing or the physical interaction? Is that a very human thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think both is interesting. People are amazed right now by AI because they can recreate songs. Just yesterday I heard a song that was created by AI and I couldn't tell. And they are amazed that they are now looking like a superhero, and I can understand that. But I think at some point it will get boring because everybody can be a photographer now and create in AI something. But I think the appreciation is bigger for things that real people do with real stuff. So I think that can be modeled on all kind of work, not only photography.
But do you think that that the population, I mean, if we just think about what's going on, I mean, humans are generally extremely lazy. I was sometimes told that the basic program of whatever living being is, get your joys fulfilled without and by avoiding pain. And maybe that is something that could be for the majority of the people really a problem, because everybody says, "Oh, I'm using GPS and I'm using any kind of digital maps that guide me with my car to the right place." If I just remember 20 years ago, I was just saying, okay, I have to really memorize this street or this junction because otherwise I'll not find back home. So if I suddenly have no GPS signal, I can't find home anymore because I don't train it anymore. And something like, and I think with the art of photography, it's a little bit the same. I mean, there is a danger that we are losing, at the end of the day, the ability to create things in the right way.
Maybe this starts to happen in the future where I'm not longer here. I absolutely understand what you're saying. And I remember like 20 years ago or 25 years ago, I was at it's kind of a self-awareness training, or it was paid from our company's self-organization training, it was called, I think. And back then we had like the first phones that were kind of smartphones that were helping us to put in appointments, to remember something. And I was talking with the speaker there, and she said that it's good if the technology can help us to have more free time. And we have to think our time is growing so fast that we need more free time because we're working much more. It's much more stressful. And so technology can help us. So what you said, I think, is technology is helping us. Like we have now a car and we have not to go. We have like GPS that will help us. I still can navigate with a map. Not everybody will be able to. And I think it's going to be harder for me as well because I haven't done it for some time. And I think people who will use AI to create their images or their portraits, I'm not sure if they would have ever be going to a photographer before, because they anyway wanted to save money, and maybe they would have asked Uncle Bob to take the pictures of the wedding to save money. But I think some places at some points it's hard that AI can help, like getting images of an event, for example, or for a wedding or something like that. I think this is will take a little bit more time that AI can create wedding pictures. Maybe I can imagine there's some kind of camera running the whole wedding, and AI will extract some images there, upscale it, and create some kind of portraits out of it.
Well, I saw this weekend a drone flying over a wedding party, taking photos by the photographer.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe in the future this is possible. And I'm pretty sure if we have the discussion again, like in 20 years from now, it will look very different, because AI will took over everything already. So I think AI is taking over already a lot of things. I heard, I'm interested in AI a lot, and I heard discussion about AI and insurances in the news, and the insurance company said we use AI in 3 years. So for it's like a house insurance, if somebody is reporting that, I don't know, broken glass or something, no human is anymore interacting with them. That's all AI since 3 years.
That brings us to another point. You are, in your other life, I think you are an author for a magazine that is about software and computers.
Yeah, it's about IT? Photography. Yeah, no, it's about photography.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm working in IT. It's one part of my job since many years, so I have some insights in there. But I'm author for articles for Heise.de Photo, like it's called CT Fotografie, and there I wrote already some articles about AI. And I have to jump back a little bit. What I see today is a lot of people are starting to question all images, even like photographers, that they really don't like AI. And I'm not the biggest fan of AI, but I think it's interesting. And a lot of people are starting to question pictures and ask if AI did them. And, if you work a lot in IT and if you work a lot of digital, you have seen so many like JPEG artifacts that look funny sometimes because you make them bigger or something like that. That right now I'm wondering, maybe there is more discussion about images that maybe are created and they are not created with AI, because just it's so hard to tell them apart right now. I think in general it's a great or big discussion on the internet. If it's created on AI, or this could be created easy with AI. I don't know why you use the wet plate process, for example. I think what I see is missing a little bit in these days, that people just look at an image and enjoy it. It's a lot of discussion how it was made.
So do you think that an AI should be called a photograph? I think at the end of the day, it's an illusion of a photograph.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure. It's based on some kind of photograph that's happened somewhere, but I don't think it's a photograph. And I discussed it with other photographers. I think there should be like a digital watermark, not like a picture. There is a technique that embeds information in the image that it's created with something. But in this, what I'm saying is that it's created with AI. And you even could take a picture of the picture with your phone, and the digital watermark would stay in there. I'm not sure if it's really so easy, but within a screenshot, for example, it still remains in a screenshot, because I have the feeling that people will, looking for the word, will mistake it with a photograph, and this can be stupid, this can be dangerous, some people could use that to manipulate other people. And I think it would be good if it's really like marked somehow, that people know this is a generated image.
But if people do want to do harm, they will always find a way around it. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
If it's a very good idea. Sometimes it's better to question every picture you see, probably, because even if it's not done by AI, it can be digitally altered in that way that it's not showing the truth anymore anyway.
Yeah, but if you just see a portrait right now of of a beautiful girl, I think maybe if somebody's saying he did it with a camera and it's not, maybe it's stupid. But what I said before, I think it's really, these days, it's harder to appreciate just an image because it questions a lot. There are a lot of people questioning it if it's really an image or not. But I agree, in AI is, from my point of view not a photograph.
But I think it's always a problem, especially inside certain bubbles, that the how it was done is more important than the result in the end. And in Facebook groups or so, just the fact that it's done in an analog way, it is enough to show it, even though it's the most boring image anyone could possibly imagine. But they have to show it because it's analog. And the picture itself doesn't count anymore, just the technique is counting. And that's also horrible.
That's what I meant. Just enjoy the image. But if you like it, enjoy the image. I'm also active on Reddit a lot, and I've seen in the analog subreddit images of, I don't know, I believe it's a beautiful image, but it was just a very simple object in a forest. It was nothing. For me, it was well exposed. It was a good image, But people, like thousands of people, liked it because I think it was kind of an analog picture, and I was like, it's really good. But that's only my taste. So I'm not saying it's not a good image. It's just, as you said, sometimes I see images and it gets hyped because it's analog. I have the feeling as well.
Yeah, I think if we think about that analog thing and that it's analog done and that's so exciting for a lot of people, I think it has a little bit to do what Markus said at the very beginning, that people love to watch a carpenter making a table. And I think it's the point that you just say, oh, he made that analog. I wish I could do that. Or there is some kind of skills involved in it, even if it's kind of like a mediocre photo. But at the end of the day, someone exposed himself to the public and say, look, I tried to do something that could have gone totally wrong, which is, at the end of the day, if you take a digital photo and you put the camera on P, the likelihood with auto ISO and autofocus and auto whatever is very, very little that you don't get an image that is at least.
If you put an analog camera on P, it's also very easy to get results.
If you put a 25 ISO film at night, even P will not help you.
So and doing wonderful digital composers and so on, it's a skill in itself. So it's not less worthy than a great analog picture.
I agree. And I have to go back to AI. Even to create a good AI image needs some skills to know the right words. You can get lucky and say, create an image of a beautiful girl and you get a super nice image. But if you want to create something specific, and a specific background or something, it's a lot of work. I understand that. It's not like... It's like analog digital. You can put in some words, you get a super result, and you can say, wow, look at the art I built, but you just put in 4 words. And another guy put in a lot of hard work, maybe programmed another AI to get an output for him, and he maybe put in 1 hour in work to get a different kind of portrait, but it's exactly how he imagined it would be. It's, I think, somehow so we could compare this kind of work. So you can spend a lot of work in a lot of different kind of processes. If you want to call AI a process, I don't think it's a process, but yeah.
Yeah, so you want to say that there is something similar like a horse whisperer for AI? So
Yeah,
people who
yeah.
understand AI much better, so that's kind of a talented thing, so that you just could get better images with
Yeah, I've looked
Just
a lot
talk
of
to Boris Eldagsen, for example. He spent a crazy amount of time getting exact the results he wants to have.
So I think it's a niche, or it's something you want to have that way. For me and for a lot of other people, it's maybe interesting, but it would not satisfy me to only create AI images. For some stuff, it's really good, because in Austria and in Germany as well, it's really hard. If you want to use an image for something, you cannot just easily go outside and take pictures of other people, specific people, and use it back then, because of the rights of your own picture. So for something like that, AI will be a good solution, I think.
How about the coming back to the wet plate process, which is definitely the absolute opposite? For the future of that, how do you think? Do you think is there a saturation expected? Will more people make wet plates? Is there? How do you notice that? I mean, we had obviously a time where, I mean, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the only wet plates you've seen were photos from the Civil War, which were really back from that time. And I think in my perception, I haven't seen that much. So what do you think is the future of wet plate photography?
So I think it's still growing. A lot of people are interested in workshops. I will have my next workshop in 2 months. And it's really cool that I have a girl that is interested right now in the process. She's 16 years old, goes to a photography school, and she's really interested and wants to start her own business and someday with wet plate. So you see also younger people are interested in this beautiful process. I think at some point it's a little bit more difficult here in Europe about the chemicals. That's maybe something some people will slow down. Sorry, because now for some stuff you need to be a company to be able to purchase it, but I think there are still alternatives. So you can do your own wet plates even as a private person. But if I look in US and look what's going on here, it's not getting less. There are not less people are doing the process. I think it's a little bit increasing, so to say.
Maybe also because of, as a reaction of all this AI and artificial images, to have something again hands-on, haptic, art, craft.
I'm not sure if my articles or my work is published on many websites. I'm also curious to read the comments. I think that's a lot of people, or some people, always come up with, I could have done it with an app, I could have done it with AI, and then they post an image where they put basically wet plate and flowers or something, or whatever it was, into the prompt. And for me, it doesn't look anything like wet plate, because first of all, they have no idea how to work with AI, and then they have no idea how wet plates look like. And mostly the comments are also going this direction. But that just told me that people don't see a difference between real wet plates and fake wet plates that are really badly done on AI. So this kind of people will be never convinced, but a lot of other people, they get hook to the process, I think. And as soon as you see your first plate appear in the fixer, there's no way back.
Especially if you see wet plates in the original form. If you see the real plates, it's drastically different than you see something on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. I do a talk. Maybe I have to do a little bit an advertisement right now on the 13th of October in the Ars Electronica Center in Linz. And I will bring there a wet plate and a daguerreotype from back then. And even for me, when I was first time I held a wet plate from 1800 in my hand, it was something magical about it. You know, it's like my plates will also survive 100 years, 150 years, maybe longer. And if you see how it was done back then, or how these little plates, because mostly they are very tiny, it's like, it looks like a real treasure when I hold it in my hands.
Well, especially that your, let's call it your wet plate data, which is at the end of the day your wet plates, that they have such a long lifetime, means that also the storage of that image is kind of a safe place. There is only one original. You can copy it, but you have that original only to prove that this was true. And but that's not the case with other processes, especially when you think about digital photography, where at the end of the day, all the AI is sucking all the data that was done digitally before. So whenever you are, it's just taking its existence out of other existing things.
Yeah, I'll try to, I have to go a little bit back to maybe 6-7 years. I think there are a lot of photographers, maybe it's only 5 years. Anyways, I think a lot of photographers used already AI many years, and most of the AI services were free. Like, can you remember when there was like the first service that was coloring black and white images, or brought like black and white images to life, portraits where they could see move, or their eyes move or something, and others were using retouching services or AI retouching services on their computer for free. And I think these people were the first people, not the first, but these people were people that feed AI with a lot of data already, so AI could learn more and more. And now I think it's hurting these kind of photographers much more than us as analog photographers, because these haptics and this handmade thing divides us, or makes us different. And then digital photographers there are a lot of digital photographers who do a great work. I'm just saying that maybe they are connected a little bit more with the AI process because it's already digital. And as you said, all the data comes from somewhere, and I saw an article. I'm looking for it, but I didn't find it again. Like, all the images from NASA are public domain, right? Everybody is allowed to use them. And somebody created an image where he put some kind of prompt in it where there was the man on the moon, and it looked like really exactly like the image from NASA, because there are two little there are two little images out there that have a man on the moon, because there's only these one sessions where the people were really on the moon. I think this is gonna be a very, very interesting topic in the future, because as soon as somebody looks like some image from somebody else, and a company is using it for a Super Bowl commercial, for example, and some photographer says, hey, that looks like very, very similar to the image I took. So, and if there are the right people who have enough money to get involved, this is going to be interesting. Who is then responsible for the copyright? And I tested, for example, Adobe Firefly for some time. And Adobe said that they only use, their AI only used images from Adobe Stock. But Adobe Stock is a platform where photographers upload their images and get money for the images if somebody buys them, like stock images, as Eric said before. But for AI, they don't get compensated yet. So AI is using their images, and Adobe is maybe very proud that they don't scrape the internet for images. They just scrape the images from their own photographers. But then I went to the Adobe Stock website and put in the search term Midjourney and found 50,000 images on the Adobe Stock website that was created with Midjourney, and Midjourney learned from somewhere else on the internet. So there again are other images in the Adobe Stock website that are not from photographers from Adobe, from my point of view. I know it's a long reach, but I just wanted to show how difficult it is to say that these images are legal. I think this is going to be a long discussion. Some people say the discussion is over, but I don't think so. There was some stock agencies like, I don't remember the name, a very famous one, doesn't allow any AI images right now. And I think this is they have a good reason for not doing that, because they don't want to get involved with lawyers.
What some also forget, though, is the German copyright law, for example, for all the German photographers who cry about getting the images ripped off for AI, does allow data mining and data scraping, unless you explicitly forbid it, and in a form that a computer can understand it, but no one can say which form it should be. And I think no one noticed it, that these changes were made 2, 3, 4 years ago, I don't know when, even before Midjourney was on vogue and on the radar. So it is, or it was legal in Germany, at least.
Yeah, I think it would make life easier if you don't call it a photograph, and if you mark it at some point. Adobe is marking it internally in a header that it's generated, what is a good thing, but you can easily save it and in another way, and from my point of view, or take a screenshot and get lost. But it's a good start. I think this should be somehow marked. If somebody, it doesn't have to be like as a big stamp on every image. It just should be visible to somebody who is interested to see if it is generated. And that would make life a little bit easier and more secure, I think. I know everybody can use Photoshop and can create fakes, and they did that before. You saw that in politics and in campaigns and stuff like that. But now it's only 3 words away to create a pope that sings with Metallica.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that's not so bad. I think there are worse things than the Pope singing with Metallica. Yeah. So you think there is a chance also, on one side, we have that risk for digital photographers who say, okay, their work is reduced, stock images and stuff like that. But on the other hand, it's maybe a chance for analog photography too. That let's say I'm a watch manufacturer and I just want to have a campaign being shot. So if it's shot on film, I just can really say, look, we are putting all that effort in there. We are just giving you a realistic photo. We believe in our product and we don't need AI for that. You think that is kind of like a possible future?
It is already. I can tell you know what? Because another Austrian photographer, Stefan Sappert, has made a deal with, I hope I say it right, a whiskey company. Hope it's whiskey. And they get to every whiskey a wet plate. It's a very limited series. And can you imagine this whiskey company would go to another photographer and say, can you make me for every whiskey a unique AI image?
Yeah, well, yeah. That's kind of a cool deal.
Yeah, it would be cheaper, but nobody would be I don't know, would be amazed by that there is an AI image coming with a different AI image with a whiskey. But I can tell you a different story. It's still digital, but that was a bigger commissioned work I had to do. And it was not AI, but it was similar. So there is this manufacturer for products, and he comes from Hollywood, and he did a lot of special effects. So now he has his own company, and he rendered his products in 3D, and it looked great. It looked really great. I thought it looked great, but the marketing agency told him, real photographs always will attract people more. And so I had to compete. They came to me, and I did product images of their products. And I thought, okay, I have to compete with his own work. It's gonna be difficult. But after the images or the work I did, they sent me monthly, I think 2 or 3 or 4 products. I did the images, and they told me that they worked better at somehow. So I think there is still something about real photographs.
Well, I mean, that is at the end of the day kind of promising. I think that's also a good, nice finish for our nice discussion here. I'm pretty sure we're going to have one again with you in the nearby future, because Markus always works on a lot of projects and a lot of things. Well, thank you, Markus, that you took the time for us and this interesting talk about analog photography, about wet plate, about AI, and about the future of photography and the presence of photography. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the invite. I think it's a really interesting topic to bring all the things together, because photography changed all the time, from analog to digital, from black and white to color, from digital to smartphones, and there's always like big discussions. But we are still using analog cameras. We're still people are buying film, and I'm still doing wet plates, and it's now 171 years ago that they started. So I think we're gonna do it for some more time.
Good. So we talk again in 2070 or something like that.
Oh, that would be cool if I'm still alive back then.
Yes.
No, I'm still alive then, but let's see. Maybe let's focus in 10 years, okay?
Okay, good. Well, I hope earlier. Okay, then thank you, everybody. We hope you enjoyed our podcast, and I hope next time we will have more female presence here again, and that boy tour is over. So, then goodbye.
Take care. See you then.
Bye, guys.
Bye.